Welcome to Summer Seminar. My name is Sarah Lefevers, and I'm the Dean for Kindergarten and Elementary at Pensacola Christian Academy. I'm a dean, I'm also a mom, I'm also a PCA parent, and so I love working with parents. And you're thinking, do you really love working with all parents? And I really do. From the parent who is kind and encouraging and knows my favorite drink at Dunkin' Donuts and stops by and gives me one, to the parent that is a little bit more difficult. I enjoy working with them. To the parent who is not as engaged, and I'm trying to get them more engaged in the academic process at PCA. I love working with all of them. This session is to help you as you work with parents, handling parents with ease. Well, maybe you're a new teacher and parents kind of scare you. You just graduated college and you're thinking, these parents are old enough to be my parents. I don't know if I'm ready to be the teacher and to communicate with them like I need to. This session hopefully will put your mind at ease and help you as you enter the classroom. Maybe you're a well-seasoned teacher and parents don't really scare you. I hope this session will be an encouragement to you that, hey, keep doing what you're doing. Or maybe you're somewhere in between on this and you can maybe get some fresh ideas from this session as you start a new school year. My goal is to build a bridge with every parent that I meet. I want to connect between the teacher and the parent, the principal and the parent, the dean and the parent, and build that bridge so we can work together for the betterment of their child and our student. So the question is, how do I handle parents with ease? I'm so glad you asked. The way to handle parents with ease is to build a positive relationship with that parent for the betterment of that child. So that's the end of the session. That's what you need to do. You need to build a positive relationship with that parent. Not quite. How do you build a positive relationship with parents? First of all, you need to show love and concern for that student. Now, I know you love your students. I know you're concerned about your students. But do the parents know that? How do they know that? How do they see that? How do they hear about it? How do you communicate to the parents that you love their child and you're concerned about their child? First way you can do that is show warmth at the very first meeting with either the child or the parent. Now, for us at PCA, our first interaction typically is either at open house or orientation. And we have an opportunity to meet the parent and the child. Now, that very first meeting, you need to be happy to see that child in your classroom. You need to greet that child and that parent, saying, you know what, I am so glad you're in my class. Now, like I said, I am a parent, and I have a daughter in high school, and I have twins who are heading into 6th grade. Now, my children love their teachers, My son, whoever he gets, he's fine, very easygoing. His twin sister, not so much. Once she has a teacher, she's very loyal to that teacher, and there is nobody better than the teacher that she has right now. So when Jack and Julia, my twins, were in 1st grade, they had Miss Howe, and they loved Miss Howe. Miss Howe was the world to them. Jack would come home singing Miss Howe's praises, telling me how beautiful she was and that she sang like an angel. But once he went to 2nd grade, he was okay with whoever he got for a 2nd grade teacher. Julia, on the other hand, absolutely not. The only teacher she was ever going to have was Miss Howe. She was not going to go to 2nd grade, and if she was going to go to 2nd grade, she was going to have Miss Howe. Well, since Miss Howe was not going to move to 2nd grade, Julia had to have Mrs. Chappell. Mrs. Chappell? She did not want Mrs. Chappell. She wanted Miss Howe. So our first interaction was at orientation. I walk up to the door. Mrs. Chappell greeted me, shook my hand. Mrs. Lefevers, I am so excited to have Jack and Julia in my class this year. Jack shook her hand, introduced himself, and went and sat in his seat. Julia, on the other hand, ran behind me and hid. Mrs. Chapel obviously knew that there was something wrong here, that she was going to have to win Julia over. It was going to take a little bit more work than with Jack. So she bent down, because she's a lot taller than me and Julia, and she said, Julia, do you know what my favorite color is? Julia peeked around me a little bit, and she shook her head. She goes, Julia, my favorite color is purple. Guess what color Julia was wearing that day? She was wearing purple. Julia came around from me. She showed Mrs. Chapel her dress. And from that point on, Julia loves Mrs. Chapel. To this day, even though Julia is going into 6th grade now, she goes and visits Mrs. Chapel almost every time she's wearing the color purple. From that very first meeting, Mrs. Chapel took the time to show love and concern and warmth towards my children. Recognize your students daily. Know their name. Make it a goal by the first week of school for you to know every student by name. So when they walk into your classroom, you can say, good morning, Jack. I'm so happy to see you. Now, if you're in secondary, you're thinking, Sarah, that's a lot of names to know. I know some of our secondary teachers literally have over 100 students. So maybe you could have a cheat sheet in your grade book with a picture of the child, or maybe if something that you're going to remember so you helps you to remember their name. Get to know your student by name. I know that I'm the dean here at Pensacola Christian Academy, and I have well over 100 students in K4 through 6th grade. Now, I would love to tell you that I know every student by name. I don't, but I really do try. And I would say that I know hundreds of students' names, and I even make it a game and a goal with another principal. So when we're on hall duty, we try to greet as many students as we can by name and see who can name more students than the other. When I'm out on car duty, I try to see how many doors I can open for students and say good morning to that student by name. It means a lot when somebody actually knows your name and can remember it and stop and look you in the eye and say good morning. So recognize your students daily. Be interested in what your students are doing, not just in the classroom, but what are they doing outside the classroom? Do they play sports? Are they interested in music? Are they taking lessons? Are they interested in animals, horses, art lessons? Is mom having a new sibling for them? Be interested in what's going on in their lives. You know, this point came so clear to me this year with my oldest daughter. She had a severe concussion in December, and she had to miss a full week of school. And to her, it was devastating. She's very involved in school. She takes her academics very, very seriously. And so for her to miss a week of school was very tough on her. And I emailed the teachers just a brief email saying, you know, Amelia's going to miss school this week due to a concussion. Each teacher emailed me back saying, we're praying for her and we'll help her catch up. So they gave me that assurance as a parent that, hey, we care, we're concerned, we're praying for her, and also we're going to help her get caught up. What they did next was even to the next level of care and concern. Her teachers, whether it was her Bible teacher, when she came back to school after a week, she said, all right, Pastor Gorley, I'm ready to take my verse test. He looked at her and said, Amelia, I want you to give your brain a few more days to rest. I know how concussions can be. And she said, Pastor Gorley, I'm really ready. I can do this. And you know what? He was so concerned about her, he just made her wait a little bit longer. Her English teacher, when she said, I'm ready to do this paper, saying, Amelia, we're going to just adjust things a little bit. You just take your time to rest like you need to. Her Algebra 2 teacher met with her before school to teach any lessons or concepts that she missed while she was out. Her biology teacher looked at her and said, here is my personal home phone number. Call me and we'll adjust your STEM due dates and I will get you caught up in biology. Her private violin teacher not only adjusted her music lessons, she made her this little box of chocolates because she knows how much my daughter loves chocolate. And she sent it home with me to just encourage her, saying, it's okay. We're going to get back to where we need to be. Just take the time you need to rest. They took so many steps to show how much they loved my daughter and were concerned about my daughter, interested in my daughter, not just her grades, but her health and well-being as well. It meant so much to me that they would do that. So show interest in your students. You know what? You have that boy in your class who just loves sports and you do not like sports. Learn what team he likes. Maybe you'll have to do a little research yourself so you can talk to that child about sports. My son loves Mario Kart. I know nothing about playing video games, but I have learned over the past couple years to at least attempt to play Mario Kart with my son, just because it was something I can connect with him about. Listen to your students. Listen, I know you have a busy schedule. Your curriculum is demanding. You have a lot to do, a lot to get in a day. But you know what? Take the time to listen to them. What could they tell you about their day? What's going on in their lives? The struggles that they're having, things that they're interested in, ways you can guide them. You're thinking, where am I going to find that time in a day? Well, how about at lunch? Purpose yourself to switch seats at lunch so that you are having an opportunity to sit with multiple different students throughout the week and give them an opportunity to talk to you and tell you about their day. How about at recess time? Can you go play with those girls who are playing jump rope and see what they're talking about and see how they're doing? If you don't plan time to talk to these students, it's not going to happen. So take the time to listen to each child. Now, I don't know what conditions are where you are for COVID restrictions. Now, we're in Florida, and we're very thankful that we are opening up. And I don't know if it's the same case for you where you're at. And you might not have a lot of these face-to-face interactions like we have been blessed with. So let me encourage you that even if you're not having a face-to-face conversation with a parent, those students are going home and telling their parents about their teacher, whether good or bad. When my oldest daughter was in 5th grade, she had a homeroom teacher, Mrs. Nagel, and she taught her Bible, English, English spelling, reading, and penmanship. And then she had a team teacher, Mr. Gonzer, and he taught math, science, and history. Now, this was the first year Amelia ever had a male teacher, and she was slightly nervous about it because she'd never had one. Well, she apprehensively went to 5th grade and learned that she just loved Mr. Gonzer. Now, the point of connection, my daughter is a very girly girl, but she absolutely loves a particular football team that her mother particularly loves too. I won't give the name, but I will say they've won 6 Super Bowl championships. And she loves football. And honestly, she would wear this particular team shirt at least once a week. Now, Mr. Gonzer likes football as well, but a different team that's a big fish and in the same division as us. And their point of connection was bantering between the two teams. He would make her do story problems where her team lost the game, and she would buy him little trinkets, little gifts with our sports teams on it and gave it to him as a kind of a gag gift. And they had this bantering relationship, and she loved her 5th grade teachers. At the time, my twins at the time were in kindergarten, and she would come home and she would tell us all these stories about Mr. Gonzer and Mrs. Nagel. and funny stories or funny jokes that Mr. Gonzer did with her, story problems that she had to do in math that had her football team losing. And when we got to the end of the school year, Jack and Julia were in kindergarten, and they were graduating kindergarten, and I got this book from their teacher, When I Grow Up. So I was reading what Jack wanted to be when he grew up. It says, when I grow up, I want to be a 5th grade teacher because they do so much fun stuff. They would need to make big posters about America, and I will grade them. We would learn about numbers and play games to see who gets the number first. We would play step first games with numbers. They would have to use the words in sentences. The books in 5th grade are big books. They would have fun reading. My students would have to call me Mr. Jack. My K-5 son at the time wanted to be a 5th grade teacher like Mr. Gonzer. Why? Because he met him? No, never met him. Never had a conference with him. Honestly, didn't even know who he was, except for the fact that Amelia came home and told us all about Mr. Gonzer. So even if you're not having that face-to-face meetings due to restrictions or how your school is run, you can still show love and concern for that child. And I promise you, they go home and tell their parents and siblings. Fast forward a few years, my twins were in 5th grade, and guess who their teacher was? Mr. Gonzer. And Jack still loves Mr. Gonzer. Another way you can build a positive relationship with parents is through communication. Every good relationship requires communication. I've been married 17 years, and if I want to keep my marriage good, I have to talk to my husband. We have to communicate. I think of my best friend all the way up in Illinois. We met our freshman year of college, first hour, first day of classes in music theory, and she has been my best friend ever since. I won't tell you how many years that is, but she's been my best friend. She lives in Illinois, I live in Florida. How do we keep that relationship where it needs to be? It's through communication. It takes communication with our Lord and Savior in order to keep a good relationship with our Lord. So if we want to have positive relationships, we want to build that bridge with parents, we have got to communicate with them. Parents have a right to know how their child is doing. I want to know how my children are doing. I work here in the building, and I still get the teachers who call me and let me know how my children are doing. A parent has the right to know what is going on. Now, I have the privilege of sometimes sneaking through my kids' classrooms, which is great, but not every parent has that opportunity. Wouldn't you love to be a fly on the wall as a parent and see what your child is doing in class? Well, teachers, you are that fly on the wall who can tell parents what is going on in their class. How is their child doing? How are they doing academically? How are they doing socially? How are they behaving in class? What are you noticing? Communicate with the parents. Parents appreciate being informed. Now, they might not always sound like they appreciate being informed, but they really are. They want to know what is going on in their child's life. Communication fosters good working relationships. I deal with discipline, and in dealing with discipline, it helps for parents to know that I care about their student. If I'm just some random person who doesn't know their child, it's hard to think that somebody who does not love and care for their child is disciplining them. I wouldn't want somebody disciplining my child who didn't love them and care for them. So communication builds a good working relationship. You build that foundation, and when you have to make that difficult phone call, they already have that foundation that you care for their child. Don't obligate yourselves to daily phone calls. There are certain parents who would love for me to call them every single day to tell them how their child is doing. Don't obligate yourself. Now, they're welcome to call you. That's fine. But don't obligate yourself. I think whether you are a parent or you're not a parent, keep in mind that the greatest gift the Lord gave me, other than my salvation, is my husband and my 3 children. They are your students, but they're somebody's child. And as a parent, I give them to the teacher for 7 hours a day for them to be educated, trained, helped, mentored, but they're still my child. So communicate with their parents. Let them know what is going on in the classroom. Can I give you a few tips in communicating with parents? Use terms they understand. I work here and I don't know every term still. I am not an academic principal. And my kids sometimes use terms, abbreviations for books that they're reading in the classroom that even I don't know. So if I work here and I don't know all the abbreviations, think of that poor parent who doesn't work at the school, and they might need you to explain things a little bit more. I was in a meeting at the beginning of the school year, and they used an abbreviation, ITS. ITS. I didn't want to look stupid, so I Googled it. I found no abbreviation for ITS. And so I finally had to raise my hand and say, I do not know what this abbreviation means. And I got a kind of curious look, and they said, it means in the seat. And I thought, okay, I did not know that term or that abbreviation. And so put yourself in the place of that parent who might not understand all the terms that you're using. Maybe in kindergarten, you're using the terms hide your eyes. As, well, I asked your child to hide their eyes and they didn't. They might not understand what hide your eyes means. I know when my daughter was in K4, she thought she was in trouble because she was told to rest her head. And I was not working here at the time when my oldest was in K4. And so I had to call the teacher, what's the difference between resting your head and hiding your eyes? And the K4 teacher gently guided me through the terminology and explained to me what it meant. So use terms that they understand. Be specific. If you just call and say, Levi is being disobedient, well, that's pretty broad. How is he being disobedient? What is he doing? Be more specific. When I call for the boys to line up, Levi is not lining up with the boys. He's just remaining in his seat. That is something very specific on what the problem is. Use understanding language. Understand that that parent is trying to understand the whole situation. So be understanding in how you approach it. You could say, I understand you're working with your son. Let's work together to help. We can do this. Just assuring them that, you know what? We can overcome whatever difficulty this is. Maybe it's academic, maybe it's behavior, but use understanding language. Make information timely and helpful. Now, if you have a problem, maybe the 3rd week of school, and you don't communicate it to the 6th week of school, parents are going to be upset, and rightfully so. If you need their help, pick up the phone and call them. Talk to them. Give them some helpful tips to help their child succeed. Your common ground is both of you want to see that child succeed. So make sure that your information is timely and helpful. There should be no surprise when a parent picks up their child's report card if you are communicating well with the parent. Now, they might not like the grade still, but it shouldn't come as a surprise if you are communicating like you need to be communicating. How else can you build a positive relationship with parents? Phone calls. And you're thinking, wait, Sarah, phone calls? Really? This is 2021. Who picks up the phone and calls? We do. We really do. I am not against technology at all. I love technology. I have my Apple Watch, my Apple phone, my iPad, all of the technology that I need, and probably too much that I don't need either. But you know what? There is something to say about somebody being able to hear your voice, sense your tone, hear that tone in your voice, and hear that concern that you have. Now, my oldest daughter went to volleyball camp on the campus of Pensacola Christian College. And she stayed in the residence halls. And I missed her terribly. I really missed her terribly. Now, she was only 20 minutes away, but I still did not like the fact that my baby was not in my house for a week. And so I would text her, Amelia, how you doing? How's your day going? Are you having fun? I texted her throughout the whole day. And guess what I got? Nothing. She was busy. She was in tournaments. She was doing practice skills. She was making new friends. She was doing exactly what she's supposed to be doing at camp, having a fun time. So I finally sent off one more text around dinner. Eating dinner with the family, miss you, how are you doing? And then I let it be. And around 9 o'clock at night, my phone buzzed. I got a text message from my daughter. So excited. I opened my phone, checked my text messages. I told her how much I loved her, how much I missed her. And then I said, how are you doing? Her response was, good. Good? Like good or good? I have no idea. I got a one-word response. I didn't know if it was a happy good, an okay good. There was no sense of any emotion in a text message. I wanted to just pick up the phone and call her, but I decided against that, or my husband encouraged me not to do that. So, phone calls. When should you call? Always start with a positive phone call. Here at PCA, we call them happy calls. And if you're around any PCA parent and you've gone to PCA for any length of time, you know that your teachers in K through 6 within the first month of school are going to call you and give you a happy call. That is just introducing yourself. Hi, I'm Mrs. Lefevers. I'm so thankful that I have Brenna in my class this year. I look forward to working with you and your daughter, asking if they have any questions. Just a real brief, positive call. Call if your student is absent more than 2 days. That is so important. That shows the parent that you are concerned. You noticed that their child was missing, and you want to make sure that they're okay. So make sure that you call if they've been absent for more than 2 days. Call if they're sick or injured at school. Parents can't be with their children all the time because they're working or they have other obligations, and they entrust their child to you. So if they get home and they have a cut on their arm or a bruise on their arm and they don't know where it came from, and they're asking their child, and they're kind of giving some sort of explanation that doesn't completely make sense, it is always best to just pick up the phone and let the parent know what happened. Call if there's major discipline. It might not be you as the teacher, but it could be the principal, or in our case, the dean, who would go ahead and call the parent and let them know. Now, there's many reasons why we should call for major discipline, but one of the major reasons why we would call is because the person who is the dean or principal or teacher calling knows the big picture of the situation, can show and tell all sides of the story, not just one student's side. And so make sure that you are picking up the phone and calling if there is a major discipline problem. And then call for academic concerns. Like I said earlier, there should be no surprises on that report card. If they are struggling in math and language or whatever subject it might be, the first indication should not be the report card. You should have already communicated with the parent that, hey, that your child is struggling in this area and this is what we're doing to help. And this is how you can help at home as well. So pick up the phone, call the parents, let them know. Show that love and concern. Now, am I against text messages? Am I against emails? Absolutely not. but they're going to have to be things that are pretty cut and dry, like, what was the homework assignment for history today? Easy for something to respond quickly to a text or an email. Or maybe, I signed up for something for the Christmas party. Can you remind me what I signed up for? Again, something that they don't have to hear tone or emotion in. But that parent who texts you and says, how did my child behave in class today? A good response would be, I would love to talk to you about that. When are you available for us to chat? Just say, I acknowledge I got this email, I acknowledge I got this text message, but when can I actually talk to you? I encourage you to use the phone and talk to parents. Can I give you some pointers on parent phone calls? I have spent the last 20 years in discipline. And sometimes I just kind of feel confident in what I'm doing because I've done it for so long. And you know what? Every situation is unique. Every child is unique. Every parent is unique. And sometimes I take it upon myself like, I've done this for 20 years. I'll be fine. But you know what? You need prayer before you go into any conversation with a parent. Pray that the Lord would help you be clear, concise, caring, that parent sees your heart in the situation, not just rules and regulations. Keep the conversation brief and to the point. If you have 25 kids in your class and you spend 10 minutes per phone call, you're going to be on the phone a long time. So get to the point. Parents are busy as well, and they don't want to spend their night on the phone either. So be clear, be concise, keep the conversation brief and to the point. Again, be specific. If they're struggling academically, be specific where they're struggling academically. Can you help guide the parent on specifics on what they're struggling with? Julia is struggling in math. I noticed at looking at her test, long division seems to be difficult for her. This is what I'm doing to help her in the classroom. I'm working with her in help class. Would you be able to give her a problem or two at night just to keep her practicing her long division? Those are some pretty specific help to help the parents. Listen to the parents. Now, I know what you might be thinking. They're just going to give me a bunch of excuses. They might. It's possible. But you know what? Listen to them. They know their child better than you know your student. You have no idea what could be going on at home or the struggles that child is facing. Maybe it's dealing with the loss of a family member. Maybe it's dealing with mom and dad who are struggling in their relationship. Maybe the child does have a learning disability or really does struggle with anxiousness when it comes towards testing and school. Maybe they're struggling socially and that's hindering them in school. Listen to the parents. It's not going to hurt anything, and it might help you see the big picture of that student. Ask the parent what they find works at home. So let's say you're dealing with a discipline issue and the parent says, you know what, we are struggling with the same thing at home. We're seeing that same disobedience with mom and dad. This is a great time for you to say, well, what works for you at home? Now, sometimes they give me things that I can't do at school, but sometimes they offer me some suggestions that, okay, I can try that at school, and maybe that will help to redirect the student. Send a positive note or call when you see improvement. If you see that the child is doing better, praise it, encourage it, encourage the parent as well. Just this year, my daughter had a goal in Algebra 2 of making a particular grade, and she was striving for that particular grade. And her one test she did very well on, but on the second test she did even better. And her Algebra 2 teacher, Miss Smith, put a smelly sticker on her Algebra 2 test. And you're thinking, she's 16 and loves smelly stickers? Absolutely. And you know what that said to me? It said, obviously my daughter did a good job and I was very proud of her. But that Miss Smith noticed the improvement from one test to the other test. It was a big deal. That was great. It was neat for her to point out a positive improvement in an academic score, maybe a behavioral situation. You know what? The younger kids love happy notes. Can you send home a happy note with that child? Letting them know and letting the parent know that, hey, they've improved. Be positive. Be assuring to that parent that we're going to work together for the success of your child. As you make your parent phone calls, can I also give you some pointers on terminology? You know, we can be blunt, or we could season our words with a little salt so that we can say the same thing, but in a nicer way. You know, I deal with discipline. And so you know what? I have some students who are not honest with me, and they lie. If I called a parent and said, Johnny is a liar, the parent is going to be very defensive and not be very happy with me. Now, did Johnny lie in that situation? Yes. But I could phrase it with the parent a little bit better. In this discipline situation that I dealt with today with Johnny, he was initially not honest with me. I said the same thing without calling their son a liar. Maybe the child in your class is just lazy. They could do so much better academically, but they're just lazy. Calling a parent and telling them their child is lazy would not be advised. How about if they could try harder? I know his grade could improve if he put a little more effort into it. See, we're saying the same thing, but in a nicer way. How about the stubborn child who just digs their heels in and will not do what you've asked them to do? Well, instead of saying that they're stubborn, we could say, you know what, he consistently insists on things being his way. Again, saying the same thing, but in a more positive way. How about that child who loves to waste time, is off daydreaming, or takes forever to sharpen that pencil, or that secondary student who goes to the restroom and decides to take laps around the building instead of just going to the restroom and coming back? You know what? We could say she can use her time better if she would just work harder at this. Again, we're just saying the same thing, just in a more positive, kind approach. Now, you can say everything right. You can pray before you talk to parents. You can communicate with parents. You can make sure your terminology is kind and caring and loving. And you know what? Sometimes still people get upset with you. And I would love to say that I've gone 20 years and no parents have gotten upset with me. But I've had my fair share, and I will say they're few and far between. We have wonderful parents at Pensacola Christian Academy, and I know you have wonderful parents at your school as well. But you know what? Sometimes we have to deal with upset and angry people. It's going to happen. And one thing I have learned personally is not to take it personally. I have learned that, especially in dealing with discipline situations, they're frustrated with the situation, the action, the child, maybe the lack of restrictions that they've put on the child, and they're angry with all that, but they love their child. They love their family. And it's easier to yell at me and be upset with me than to be upset with the situation and upset with the child. And so don't take it personally. Don't panic or become defensive. You know what? It's going to be okay. It's going to happen. Teacher, if it hasn't happened yet, it will happen. Somebody will get angry with you. Somebody will get upset with you. But you just have to stay calm. Don't get defensive and don't panic. Just let them talk and you listen. Let them talk. You're saying, Sarah, they're talking very loudly to me. It's okay. It's all right. Let them get it out. Hear them out. Listen to them. May I encourage you to write some points down? And even if I am talking to a parent face to face, I will even tell them, I'm going to grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I'm going to write down some of these points so I can make sure that we address every concern that you have. And so I will tell them, I'm going to pull out a piece of paper and pen. If you're wrong, admit it. Do you know PCA is not perfect? We don't have perfect teachers. We don't have perfect students. We don't have perfect parents. We don't have perfect deans or administrators, principals. And sometimes we make a mistake. Just a few years ago, I had a parent call and she was so angry. Her child had an accident in the classroom. And she said, my daughter asked to use the restroom and their teacher refused to let her go to the restroom. And I know the teacher and I know our procedures and I know we let kindergartners go to the bathroom as many times as they need to because we don't want to deal with the consequences of them not taking them to the restroom. And so I asked the parent, I said, would you let me look into it and give you a call back? She said that was fine. I went to the teacher and I told her the situation and she hung her head down and she goes, she did ask to use the restroom. And I told her to go stand by the door and I'd take her in just a minute. And at that time, another kindergartner was having a meltdown, a major meltdown. Maybe we'd call it a temper tantrum meltdown. And she goes, I just forgot. I completely forgot. And her daughter did have an accident. I said, okay, it happens. Mistakes happen. I will call the parent back and apologize. And she goes, oh no, Mrs. Lefevers, please let me call that parent. She said, can you watch my class for 5 minutes and let me go call this parent and apologize? And so she did. And to this day, we have a great working relationship with that parent and with that student. And we just had to admit that we were wrong in this situation. If you or the parents need to calm down, tell them you'll check into the situation and call them back. You do not want to respond in anger. You do not want to respond in fear. You don't want to give the wrong answer just because you don't know what to say and you're trying to get this parent to be quiet. Tell them you'll call them back. Thank them for communicating the problem. And you're thinking, thank them for calling me and telling me all this stuff. I tell this to parents all the time. I cannot fix what I do not know. And so thank them for the communication so that we can look into it and fix the problem for them and also for future children and for our sakes as well. Thank them. Document, 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 document. And you're thinking, what? More paperwork? And I'm not sure how your school asks you to document, but we do ask our teachers to document. And you're thinking, why are you adding more work? Well, let me tell you, when a teacher talks to a parent at night, or on the weekends or some other time, and they think it's completely resolved, then the parent shows up at 8 a.m. demanding to see me, and I have no clue what happened. It's always nice to be able to go back and say, okay, this is where the teacher got with the parent. Now let me keep working on resolving the situation. Parent-teacher conferences. That's another way to build positive relationships and handling parents with ease. Now at our school, we have 3 different types of conferences, and I don't know what you have at your school. So let me just share with you what we do. We meet with new parents. If they're new to PCA, we meet with the parents and let them know how their child is doing. Show interest. Is their child acclimating to PCA? Not just academically, but socially. Are they making friends? Put that parent's mind at ease that their child is acclimating to school. So we meet with all new parents to PCA. Academic and discipline conferences. I've said this, I believe, twice already. It should be no surprise, that report card in those grades, if we're communicating like we need to. You know, if you're communicating and the parent is doing their best and you're doing your best to help this child academically, maybe you need a conference to sit down, to look over the child's work, to see where the disconnect is. Conference with that parent. Help them out. Do you know what? There are some subjects that I know well. There are other subjects that I do not know well. When we went to virtual learning last year, I love math. I love algebra. but I learned I could not teach it to my daughter. I had to put her algebra teacher on speakerphone, and he had to help us through the problem. So conference with them, discipline. If there are issues in the classroom, you have got to conference with the parent. If you have taken all your steps of discipline that you have in whatever grade level you're in, you've gone to your principal, dean, and they've taken their steps, maybe it's time to sit down and talk to the parents. Listen to them, hear them out. Have your normal PTMs. We missed our PTMs this year. Our PTMs this year were virtual. We look forward to going back to in-person PTMs in the fall. But that time for a teacher to communicate with those parents, to see them face to face, and for the parent to be able to see that teacher. Now they're hearing all sorts of stuff about the teacher, but to actually see them and hear them helps the parent be at ease with the teacher. Let me give you a few more tips on parent-teacher conferences. You know what? Eye contact is so important. Right now, I would so much rather be talking in summer seminar to a bunch of people who I can make eye contact with than a camera. But you know what? Eye contact is so important. It shows that I am interested in what you are saying. I am interested in your child and how he or she is doing. Be open-faced, meaning don't be covering your face with your hands and being very distracted with what you are doing. Give that parent your full attention. I understand we have busy schedules. I get that completely, being a full-time working mother with 3 children who seem to be involved in everything. I get it. But when I'm sitting across the desk from a parent, they have my full attention. Your tone to your voice. Kindergarten teachers, I'm really talking to you. You get so used to talking in a certain voice with 4 and 5-year-olds. When you go to that parent conference, you need to make sure you're using your adult voice with that parent. Find common ground. This is easy. The common ground is the student, is their child. Make sure that parent knows that you care and are concerned about their child. Don't set yourself up. Don't set yourself up to maybe tutor every single day or call them every day. Never argue with the parent. You know what? The parent might not agree with the way you're teaching a certain subject, or maybe how your stages of discipline in the classroom. Don't argue with them. Be tactful. Be spirit-controlled. Allow the Lord to guide your words in talking with parents. Keep the relationship professional. I'm not saying unfriendly, but professional and warm. Do you know what? I am friends with many, many, many parents of PCA. I really am. I love people, and so I love meeting new people. I go to church with several of the parents from PCA. My children are involved in many sports in our community, so I know many parents from there. I do try to get involved in the community of Pensacola, so I know a lot of parents. And sometimes I have to have my friend hat and then my dean hat. I remember when my oldest daughter was in 6th grade, and I was very close friends with her 6th grade teacher. And we were so excited that Miss Lewis got Amelia in 6th grade. And first day, orientation, she greeted me, she hugged Amelia, and she looked at me and she goes, "Sarah, I'm gonna unfriend you on Facebook now because I'm your daughter's teacher." I thought, okay, if that's what we need to do to make sure that it stays professional, that's fine. Now, are we still friends? Absolutely. And once Amelia was done 6th grade, she was my friend again on Facebook. So keep that relationship professional, warm, and kind. Be prompt in responding. If you get a text message, a phone call, an email, my goal is always 24 hours or less. They should not be waiting to hear from you for days on end. Their communication should be important enough to you for you to respond in 24 hours or less. Be friendly. Be friendly. Be kind. Be kind with everyone. Be polite. Be tactful. in what you're trying to say. Do not play favorites. Teachers, we know this can be hard because there are certain students that walk in the classroom and we just adore them. There are certain students who we see and we want to go in the opposite direction. But you know what? We should love them all the same and treat them just the same. We just ended a school year and there were certain students I just had to get to before they left for the school year because they just had my heart. There were students who I was glad was there, but I was so excited that I was going to get a break from them for a few months. You know what? They shouldn't know that, though. We should love them equally. Maybe you have the pastor's child in your class, or maybe you have the dean's daughter in your class. They should be treated equally. And might I add, they should not be held to a higher standard because they are the pastor's kids or the administrator's kids. They should be treated equal. Do not discuss your personal life. Now, granted, if you were to ask many parents, many students here at PCA, they know some stuff about Mrs. Lefevers. They know that I'm married. They know I have 3 kids typically. They know I have kids usually. They know who my favorite football team is. And typically, if you asked anybody around here, they could probably tell you my favorite Dunkin' Donuts drink. Now, warm, friendly. They are not into my personal business, though. I am not discussing that with them. I would never pick up the phone and call back a parent and say, I'm so sorry, I didn't call you back because my football team lost in the Super Bowl and I was just very depressed. A little bit too personal for me to be getting into with a parent. Don't ask children personal questions about their parents. If you are concerned, you need to talk to the parent, not to the child. Dealing with several parents who are from split homes, trying to figure out whose home they're with that day, that night. Hey, I noticed this. You didn't get a lot of sleep last night. Were your parents arguing? Not something you need to be asking a child. Not anything you need to be discussing. Keep the relationship warm and friendly, tactful, but keep it professional. I really do hope this session was a help to you because parents are wonderful. They are the greatest advocate you have in order to help that child succeed in your classroom. So I encourage you, handle parents with ease by building a positive relationship with them, by showing love and concern for their child, communicating with the parent. Call them. Call them. Pick up that phone and call them. Conference with them when you need to. And keep that relationship professional, kind, warm, and keep that door of communication open with every parent that you have.